Welcome to the April 29th, 2025 meeting of the Public Works Committee. I now call this meeting to order. My name is Councilor Schultz, and I'm joined by Councilor Boschman to my left, and also Councilor Fleming, and to my right, Councilor Cruz. Please be advised that FATV is conducting an audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. I ask that anyone in the audience who is recording this meeting to please identify themselves for the record now by standing and stating their name and address. Not seeing anyone, we'll go on. At this time, I ask that all electronic devices be placed in the silent mode. Okay, we'll start with the agenda. The first item is to approve the minutes from January 28, 2025 meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And we'll take that by unanimous consent unless anyone has a problem with it. Okay, moving on, we have Commissioner Erickson here with the DPW update.
All right.
Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're here at the end of April. Construction season technically only started on April 15th. That's the end of our non-emergency excavation moratorium. We allowed a few projects to start in advance of that just to make sure that we keep up with certain schedules, most notably the project right here out on Main Street. So I'll start with Water Division. I'll go through each of these bullet points, and if you've got any questions, feel free to jump in along the way. So Water Division, we're nearly complete with the SCADA upgrade project. You've seen that on these reports a couple of times. There's just a few outstanding punch list items before we close that contract out. That was a project to replace the brains of our water supply and treatment system. Then we've got the Main Street Water Main project, which is fully underway. Polito & Sons Construction is working on that project. They've got the Phase 1 temporary bypass piping set up. That's the above ground water mains that you see between the Upper Common and roughly Grove Street right now. They've been doing changeovers to the temporary water piping for the last week or so. Once all that temporary water system is set up and installed, they'll move right into actual main replacements. Once they finish that Phase 1 area, they'll progress further east along Main Street. Another major project we have underway right now is the Meeting House Gatehouse Rehabilitation Project. So Meeting House Reservoir is the terminal reservoir for our regional water treatment facility located in Westminster. And this is a project to rehabilitate the gatehouse, which is the interface between the reservoir and the pipeline that feeds down into the treatment plant. So it's a very major project. It's been years in planning and design. And we've been just getting started on that. So essentially the gatehouse itself will be rehabilitated. There's a wet well with a huge rotating traveling screen that's all coming out. So it involves putting in a line stop and bypass pumping to get reservoir flows into the pipeline and down to the plant while we do the work on that gatehouse. So yesterday actually was when they first started up the bypass pumping system. So it was a very stressful and long evening for a lot of city and contractor employees. But we didn't lose water. There's no boil order water today, so the guys are doing a great job. So that we're looking forward to getting that project done and out of the way. So that bypass pumping setup will be in place for about 3 weeks. So it's going to be a very nerve-wracking 3 weeks, because if that doesn't work or if it fails for any reason, the city will be without water. We're also working on a project to replace the roof at the regional plant that's underway. Rockwell did a bunch of work prior to winter, and they're just resuming work now that weather's turned a little bit nicer. We're also working on a Water Street water main replacement project. This is incorporated into Mass DOT's Water Street Bridges replacement project. It's been bid out to a contractor named MIG, and the project is underway. The water main work likely won't happen until next year sometime, though. We're still in discussions with Mass DOT about schedule regarding the actual bridge work, and we'll get into that a little bit later in the engineering section. And we're also working on a pump station rehab project for Mare Meadow and Bickford Pond. That's been bid out, and the contractor is RH White, and they're starting to mobilize that project as well right now. So a lot of critical infrastructure upgrades going on in the Water Division. So any questions there?
Councilor Boschman.
Nick, on the digging up of the roads, whether it be wastewater or water, and they come back and they start filling the roads up, how long do they give us a guarantee that the roads won't start sagging and doing what they did up on Clarendon Street?
Typically, a contractor guarantee is only a year. That's the warranty that's built into city bid out contracts like that. And unfortunately, problems with roadways and such don't usually show up till well after a year. So unfortunately, if we don't catch anything during the construction progress, usually we're stuck with it. I know there was some some heaving, frost heaves noted with the Clarendon Street project. One of the issues there is that we did a majority of the subgrade work, and then we put it down a binder coat, and we left it in binder for the winter. The binder has a lot of seams where castings were adjusted and brought to grade and all that. Each of those seams is a penetration point for water. Of course, when you have snow and ice, you have water that gets down in between those seams. It freezes, it expands, and it creates those frost heaves. So some of that was expected over the winter months, and it should be resolved when we put down the top coat. But I have asked our engineering guys to work with the contractor to install additional subdrains in areas where the frost heaving was the worst. So I'm sure you've talked to Ryan a few times about that. So they're working with Lazaro to try to take care of that as a way to combat some of the frost heaves that we did see.
No, but the reason why I'm asking, well, we can wait to the wastewater if you want me to, Mr. President, it's up to you. The reason why I'm asking that question, it's not with just Clarendon Street. I noticed that when I drive up Main Street, the upper part in Greektown, the road's starting in the middle where they dug it all up and put new sewer separation. They're starting to do this too.
So that section of road is really bad. We only required the contractor to do a temporary patch there because our plan is to come back and reconstruct the sidewalk and repave that section of the road. The sidewalk redesign is underway right now, and I'm hoping to try to have that sidewalk reconstructed and the roadway repaved prior to the Greek Festival in the fall. Obviously, a lot needs to happen between now and then, so I can't make any promises or guarantees, but that's the goal right now.
Are you doing a full reconstruction of that road?
Full reconstruction of the sidewalk, and the roadway itself will be milled and paved.
That's it? So how are we going to resolve the issue with the...
So what we'll do is, I'm anticipating doing a milling, and then a leveler course, and then a top course, which is similar to what we're going to be doing on Electric Ave too, because Electric Ave is so rough right now. And what that does is you mill it down to an even surface. The skim coat or leveler course, that smooths out all those imperfections in the road, and then your top coat goes down nice and smooth.
All right. I yield the floor. I just wanted to ask. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Cruz.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Councilor Boschman was asking, when you say the DPW, the engineering, will work with the contractors, does that mean that they will pay for that themselves, or will that come out of their bottom line? How does that work, working with them?
That comes out of our pocket because it wasn't part of the original design that we bid out to the contractor. So any extra work that we tack on is stuff that we have to pay for. So
okay.
That project with Clarendon Street, there'll be a little bit of extra cost to install that subdrain in those areas where we noted those frost heaves.
Okay.
But I really can't fault the contractor for that in their work. It wasn't really due to an error or omission or negligence on their part. Standard practice is not to leave a road in binder over the winter, but Clarendon Street was so far gone and the schedule had been so far delayed that we felt it was critical to try to get the road at least in binder, leave it in binder for the winter, and then deal with any winter damage as the spring hit and some of the frost heaves melted away and all that.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. I yield the floor.
Thank you, Councilor Cruz. Any other questions? Okay, go ahead. You can move on.
So moving on to wastewater division. We've got a couple other big projects with wastewater going on. So we've got the CSO 10 combined sewer separation rehabilitation project. Most of the pipe work for this project is done, and this is the area to the western end north of Main Street, if that makes sense. So it's like the area north of Main in the Greektown area. So Chestnut, Arlington, Goddard, those streets right around there. The pipe work is done. Polito and Sons plans to do some repaving work this spring in the areas that were impacted by that project. So you'll see some paving work being done there, and that'll be a mill and pave. That's not a full reconstruction. We've also started working on the CSO 32 4583 separation rehabilitation project. This is in the area between Mechanic Street and Academy Street, essentially, north of Maine. And it will include some work in the Upper Common area and then down on Wood Place and then over by the former GE facility at 166 Boulder. But this will span 2 construction seasons. Right now, the focus is in the Elm Street area on some of the drainage and sewer work over near Punch Brook. So that's where you see most of the activity right now, over near Low Park and whatnot. So GVC Construction is working on that project. They've been great to work with so far. We got really lucky between the Main Street Water Main project, getting Polito and Sons, the CSO 10 project getting Polito and Sons, and then this project, CSO 32 4583, getting GVC. These are all top-notch contractors. And the last thing we need is a shoddy contractor to be working on these projects. So we're also working on a project at the East Wastewater Treatment Facility to upgrade the laboratory and control rooms. This project has been bid out to RH White. It's in progress. They've been working on this for 3/4 of a year now, and I believe the project is anticipated to be complete later this summer. We're also working on a study to automate the East Wastewater Treatment Facility. It's not a full automation of the plant, but an automation that would let us staff the plant to the minimum levels and not have to staff it 24/7, 365. So one of the issues that we're running into right now is finding senior operators that can work during those weekend overnight hours. I mean, it's been a little bit tough to find staff to fill those roles. So the goal of this project would be to automate to the plant to the level at which we could have shifts every day, but not have to staff it 24/7, 365. And that'll involve some coordination with Mass DEP once we get to that point. And then the last bullet point on here is the project over in West Fitchburg to convert the former West Wastewater Treatment Plant to an anaerobic digester facility. What we've run into is that we put out an RFP. We got a response back. We've been working with that entity for over a year now, trying to get the project off the ground. They're unable to raise the equity in the project that they need to proceed with construction. So at this point, we're taking a step back and trying to figure out what our next step is. Right now, we're unable to proceed with Rollstone Renewable Energy, which is the gentleman who came and spoke to City Council a while back. I think that was a little over a year ago at this point. So unfortunately, that's where that project is at right now. It remains to be seen whether we'll be able to move forward with that. We're working with another consultant, West Group Law, who's been intimately involved in the project since day one on various options to try to get something off the ground and moving forward. So I'll open it up to questions before I move on to cemeteries.
Councilor Boschman.
Well, we're digging up the road on this CSO 32, 45, 83, 10, and all them, even the others that we did. Are we also rebuilding the catch basins that we dig up on the roads? Are we doing that too?
Yes, to a certain extent. The catch basins that are installed as part of the project obviously are brand new. If catch basins aren't planned to be touched as part of the project, generally they're left alone in areas where we're not coming in and repaving. In areas where we're coming in and milling and paving the road, all of the structures will be adjusted to final grade before they're paved, before it's paved. So it's kind of a two-part answer there.
All right. All right. I yield the floor.
I had a question about the anaerobic digester facility. Is there any way the company that made that presentation can apply for any state or federal money to assist in getting the project off the ground?
I think they've explored that to a certain extent. They need like $20 million, and I don't think there's a source of funding out there that will just throw $20 million at a project like that. One of the options that we're considering is publicly funding the project, but there's a lot of details to work out before that offer's even on the table. So I don't really want to go into too much detail on that right now before we have a chance to actually figure out what those details
all the ins
are.
and outs, right?
Right.
Okay.
It's just right now, we're unable to proceed with the company that originally submitted the only proposal to our RFP that we issued for that project.
Yeah, it sounded like a great plan when he presented it to the council, too.
It was.
It was, and I think the challenges that we ran into are twofold. Essentially, the first biggest issue is the project was backed by Goldman Sachs originally. Goldman Sachs is selling off the company that was going to be funding that equity. So they stepped back from that investment, and that's what caused Rollstone Renewables to try to find other private equity elsewhere. The second issue is that when he was trying to find or raise that private equity, he was having trouble with investors because of the difficult permitting situation in Massachusetts. So Mass DEP makes it very difficult to permit these types of projects, and there was a high degree of uncertainty whether the project would actually be able to move forward if the investment was put up. So I think that caused a lot of investors to be scared off.
I thought he had moved past that.
We had worked with Mass DEP on a permitting pathway that they were comfortable with and we understood, but I don't think that goes as far as it needs to with investors that are laying out millions of dollars. I think they need a little bit more of a guarantee on that. Plus, there was some sort of credits available that are off the table now because of the current situation with the federal administration, and I think construction would have had to have started last calendar year to take advantage of those credits, and we just weren't able to get it going before the end of the year.
Thanks for the detailed explanation, Commissioner Erickson.
And obviously, we'll share more information and updates as we try to figure out what's the next step.
Yeah, it'd be great if we could get that project going.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest issue that we have is we still have to handle the residuals that come out of the east plant. And right now, we're sending them to the landfill. And our landfill's running out of capacity. There's some question as to whether Mass DEP is going to continue to allow biosolids to be placed into landfills. Maine has disallowed that. A couple other states are following suit. So if Massachusetts does go that route, that could be a major problem for us and every community that has a wastewater treatment plant. So we've got to find some sort of a solution there, because the solution that we currently are operating under has a finite lifespan.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Move on, Commissioner Erickson.
All right, moving on to Cemetery Division. There's some drainage upgrades that will be happening in the Memorial Gardens / Columbarium area. Those drainage upgrades will be conducted by Lazaro, who will also be doing the pathway paving work in that area this spring. We haven't gotten a firm date from them, but our understanding is that they'll likely complete that work following the work on Electric Ave, since they're all right in that area. We've also got the Forest Hill Abbey Mausoleum project, which is on hold just due to an overall lack of funding. We've done a preliminary / conceptual design there to come up with an order of magnitude cost. That cost is roughly $3 million to do the whole project. We've come up with a scaled back version of that cost just to repair the exterior building envelope, and that number is a little over $1 million. Both numbers are not attainable at this point, so the project's on hold until we can raise the funding to actually move forward. Councillor Cragen has been working diligently to create a Friends of the Fitchburg Mausoleum, or Friends of the Fitchburg Cemeteries group, I believe is what it's called.
Yeah, that's what it's called, Friends of the Cemetery.
And I encourage anyone willing to make a monetary donation to reach out to Councillor Cragen, and she can set you up with a donation. Then we're also working on evaluating an area of Forest Hill for potential expansion. There's one corner over by the intersection of Rollstone and Mount Elam where there's some available land to potentially install some graves. So we had a subcontractor out there doing ground penetrating radar to help identify any ledge in that area. And it looks like there is a large section that has ledge, but maybe another area that we can work around. So we're in the process of trying to figure out if that's a viable spot to get us even 100 or so graves, which would prolong the need for expansion by at least almost a year. Any questions on Cemetery Division before I move on?
I got a question.
Question, Councilor Boschman.
A couple of years ago, I think it was down by, I forget the name, down your ward. There was a big auction on some land down there. As a matter of fact, the guy that bought it, and it went real cheap. They He's putting a solar farm, or he did put a solar farm up on it.
Okay.
Why didn't the city go after that kind of stuff? Haven't you told us that it's going to cost us millions just to move that cemetery over there, because it's all hills and valleys. So why are we going to spend that kind of money for hills and valleys if you can if somebody's having an auction and you can find a nice piece of land?
So that's one of the things that me and the superintendent of cemeteries and the trustees of public burial grounds have been talking about. So we're very open to purchasing another piece of land and moving forward with an expansion if the cost will end up being cheaper. I'm not familiar with the particular parcel that you're talking about up there on Pearl Hill Road. I'm guessing just due to knowing the Pearl Hill Road area, it's very hilly, there's a lot of ledge, there's a lot of water issues, it's out in the country, it's not close to any of our operations down at Forest Hill. That's probably one of the reasons why it wasn't looked into. But if you've got an actual, like a parcel number or something, I can check into it and see whether it might have been viable or not.
All right.
But if you know of any large landowners that are looking to auction off or sell those types of land, that would be something that the city should most certainly consider, especially if it's a relatively flat parcel, not much ledge, 5+ feet to groundwater, and in excess of like 10 acres or so. That could be something the city pursues.
All right.
Unfortunately, I think developers and contractors scope out that land long before it goes on an auction block for
I think you're right.
the city to purchase, so
A lot of time, those types of deals are done before anything even goes to auction.
it's true.
But we are considering that option, to your point, Councillor Boschman, because it will be expensive to develop that site that's across from Forest Hill currently. The benefit of that site is that it's right next to Forest Hill, just across Electric Avenue. So as far as keeping operations consolidated, it's near the office, it's near the garage where they keep all their lawnmowers and whatnot. So it makes sense to keep in close proximity like that. But, if we can't afford it, we can't afford it.
All right. I yield the floor.
When you look for land, is there any requirements the state has about wetlands? You can't be too close to wetlands or anything like that?
So I don't think we could bury any dead within wetlands or within the wetland buffer zones. I'd have to imagine that's prohibited. I don't know that for 100% certainty, but I'd have to imagine that type of activity isn't allowed, considering what we don't allow as far as like site development and building and all that.
Well, the reason why I asked that, when we were looking to find a piece of land for the high school, and we ended up, almost into Ashby.
Right.
One of the considerations is that we couldn't find a piece of land large enough that was away from wetlands.
Right.
So that's why I asked that question. And I don't know what the extent of the piece of land you need. How many acres are you looking for, I guess?
We'd probably need a 10+ acre parcel at least to make it worthwhile. And you're right, wetlands themselves, the site's wet. If there's a wetland present, typically there's a pretty shallow depth to groundwater, which is not good for a cemetery because you're digging graves. You don't want to be fighting with groundwater while you're trying to dig graves. Right. My uncertainty around whether you could use a site that has wetlands on it, you can always fill wetlands and replicate them, but you have to do it the right way. You have to design it properly. You have to construct it properly. It's very, very expensive, and it requires the right type of permitting.
So that's the other expense.
Right. So there is a possibility of putting something on a site that has wetlands. You just have to engineer around it, design around it, and then you have to get it permitted. If a Conservation Commission doesn't want you to do it, then there's not much you can do. They have to be open to the idea of filling in a wetland in one spot and recreating it in another spot.
So maybe it'd be just as expensive as developing Electric Ave as well.
Yeah, potentially. But those are all the things that we need to consider as we try to plan out the future of Fitchburg cemeteries. And that's been one of the topics of the discussion at the past couple of trustee meetings. And I think it's on the agenda for the upcoming meeting in May.
Question, Councilor Cruz.
Yeah, I just regarding the Forest Hill Abbey Mausoleum, I know we've talked about the Community Preservation Act as a possibility for Fitchburg to be designated under that. Has the trustees continued that conversation, or the Friends of the Library, Friends of the Burial Grounds that you know?
I think it's still part of the discussions about where we're going next. I don't think we've looked into any of the real details of it, but I think that's still very much an option moving forward.
Okay.
I don't think it's been ruled out yet.
Chair in the Burial Grounds, correct, in the trustees?
What's that?
You have a new chair in the trustees, correct?
We do, Mr. McNamara. Yep.
Okay.
So I'd welcome you to attend the next one if you can find time in your workday. We do allow remote attendees too, so
Okay.
you know, we could certainly have a discussion on that at the next trustee meeting.
Yeah, I don't, personally, I don't see many more options for the mausoleum beyond that. And, you know, the fundraising is an idea, but could be considerably longer. It's a little bit more of a tricky road to do the CPA, but it might be more quicker in the long run than raising all the money ourselves.
Yeah.
But that's all. I yield the floor. Thank you.
Councilor Cruz. Any other questions? Councilor Boishman or Councilor Fleming?
All right, Parks and Rec. So by no means is this list exhaustive because Parks has been out straight getting all the parks ready for spring, but we've got Mama Fitz and Park Hill Playgrounds renovations planned. That's a carryover from some grant-funded work that was done last year. We replaced the play equipment at both of these parks, and we're planning to do some concrete pathway landscaping type work with the remaining funds. Lazaro will be doing some of that work, and the remainder of the work will be done by our DPW staff. We've got our city tree contractor in. He's generally caught up on the backlog. He's currently working on a project that's been assigned to him on Academy Street out in front of Longs Joe School. And I would encourage anyone with tree issues to submit requests through See-Click Fix or otherwise contact James Bunnell, who's the Director of Parks and Recreation and is also our tree warden. And then we've got the Morin Soccer Field parking lot repaving project. Money was allocated for that, I believe, a year or two ago, and that is on Lazaro's list of assignments for this spring. So we're letting them work through the projects they have left over from last year, and once we've got a clearer idea of their schedule, we'll update you all on what their workload is looking like. Any questions for Parks and Rec? All right, moving on to engineering. Engineering's working on a lot of the usual Conservation and Planning Board reviews, ongoing street opening and trench permits and inspections. Right now, their busy season is underway. That non-emergency excavation moratorium is ended as of April 15th. So all the contractors that have been waiting patiently over the winter are starting to pull their permits and get that work done. So that's sewer repairs, water repairs, berms, aprons, all that good stuff. We've got streetlight repairs ongoing with our on-call streetlight repair contractor, PRT. Engineering is working on dig-safe markouts. As we enter construction season, there's a huge volume of dig-safe markouts that come in. Engineering is responsible for marking out drainage and sewer. Water Division marks out their own water infrastructure. Engineering is working on managing 3 bridge projects with Mass DOT. We've got the River Street Bridge project, which is in progress. Northern Construction is working on that. Circle Street, that one's actually complete. There's not a whole lot going on there. That's just about closed out. I can take this off the list for next meeting. And then we've got the Water Street Bridges project, which has been bid out by Mass DOT. MIG is the contractor that's been hired to conduct the work. And right now we're working with them on the proposed closure of Boulder Drive. So as part of the bridge repair project, they were originally planning to close Boulder Drive in its entirety for essentially the entire duration of construction, which would be roughly 2 to 3 years. We've been in talks with them to try to keep it open, even if it's only one lane being kept open, because otherwise that's going to significantly impact the events that we have planned for Riverfront Park and that happen on the Mill Street stage over there by the cellar. So we've been working with Mass DOT to try to ensure that Boulder Drive remains open, at least in the westbound direction if you're heading towards City Hall. So more to come on that once we get some more clarity from Mass DOT and their contractor. Right now, it seems like they'll be able to accommodate at least one lane, one direction. We've been pushing for 2 lanes, one in each direction, or at a minimum, 1 lane alternating traffic. So we'll have to see what DOT comes up with and is able to accomplish for us. Then we've got the list of roads to be paved. Some of these are completed, some of these are underway. They've all been assigned to Lazaro. As these projects are completed, we're going to have to keep a close eye on where the budgets for each of these projects track. Some of these might have to get pushed to FY26 if we start to run out of FY25 and prior money. Between Chapter 90, past free cash appropriations, storm damage money that we would receive from the state, utility donations, and a variety of other sources that we typically use for funding paving work. The last bullet point on there, Mass DOT MA 31 and 2A, that project is actually being funded by Mass DOT. But the contractor that Mass DOT uses happens to be the same contractor that we have for our on-call paving contract right now, which is Lazaro. So they're working on getting that one wrapped up too. They started a section prior to the winter, and now they're working on the rest of it. Engineering is also working on grant assistance. We've recently submitted grants to the MVP grant program and the Office of Dam Safety Dam and Seawall Repair and Rehabilitation Program. And we're awaiting responses on those grant applications. And then the last bullet point here for engineering is we bid out 2 on-call construction grants. One is water repairs, one is sewer and drain repairs. GVC Construction won both of those contracts. They were the lowest responsible bidder for both of those contracts. So they're also the contractor on our combined sewer separation work, so it is pretty handy to have them in town and under contract for on-call repairs as well. Any questions on engineering before I move on to streets?
Councilor Boishman.
Question, Nick. May I ask, how do we pick the streets being paved?
Say that again?
How do we pick the streets that are going to be paved for this year? How do we do it?
So it's a long answer. It's based on a combination of PCI, so pavement condition index score, outstanding utility work, so we try not to pave roads that need to be dug up within the next couple of years. Available funding, so if we can only afford a street that costs $300,000 to be paved, but a street really costs $800,000 to be paved, we can't do it. We've got to hold off till the next year. And then we also look at how busy the street is, whether it's a main road versus a little side dead-end road. And then we look at what we have for utility donations available for that street. So has Unitil put up some money because of their gas line replacements, water, sewer, et cetera. So it's all those factors are looked at holistically, and then we pick which menu fits the funding that's available.
The reason why I ask those questions is because the prior administration, underneath the Lenny Lasco years, we were told that the streets that were going to get paved were the busiest streets first. That's what we were told. So nobody put in petitions to have the roads paved. It was going to be, they were picking, we wanted to keep politics out of it. But then I see that some of these streets are not as busy as some of the streets that are really busy that need to be paved. I mean, I used to complain about Electric Ave all the time. For the last 10 years, I complained about it. I kept on getting told, we're digging up, we're digging it up, we're digging it up, we're digging it up. Well, we dug it up. We're going to pave it now.
Well, with Electric Ave specifically, it needs a new water main there. And really, in an ideal world where we had an open checkbook, we'd be replacing the water main and fully reconstructing the road. But Electric Ave right now is in such poor condition, and we don't have the funding to complete water main repairs there right now. We're going to mill it and pave it because it can't last another winter the way it is. Same situation that we had over on Kimball. There's some outstanding utility work on Kimball that needs to happen in the next 10 years or so, but it was at such a deteriorated point that we had to do something there. So it's one of those situations where we've got outstanding utility work, we let it ride as long as we can, and then if it gets to a certain point and we don't have the funding, then we got to do something. We got to mill it and pave it. And that's handled on a case-by-case basis. Keep in mind, we have 180 miles of public road.
Yeah.
And this is not we say one thing and it's a one-size-fits-all that applies to every street. There's a lot of different situations. There's a lot of different factors. I 100% disagree with your statement that under Lenny Laxo's tenure as Commissioner of Public Works, that the only priority for paving was that we were paving the busiest streets first. I worked under Lenny Laxo, and I know that statement's not true. That's one of the major factors for sure, but that's not the only determining factor.
I know. Well, that's what I was told, because we couldn't put in petitions. And the only reason why Fairmont Street, part of it, got paid is because they did something that they got, and I was upset because there was a petition put in and they wanted to do a street, and I complained about it. I said, you're telling me not to put a petition in and you're doing a street. And I get streets just as bad, if not worse, than he had. And I'm using that for an example, Fairmont Street. Of course, that the whole road should have been done, but they didn't. They stopped at Wrangell. That's as far as they went. Mm-hmm. And you know what, the rest is worse. It's just as bad. And so nobody really put in petitions in. I do know they did down by the Web, down there, the plumbing supply house down there, that street. And I was really surprised at it, because I thought we voted no, and they did it anyway.
Which street was that?
The Web, with Webner's, the plumbing supply house street. I don't know, I forget the name of it, Airport, something.
Oh, Falula Street?
Is it Falula? All right, Falula.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with the circumstances under which that was paved, but I'm not sure.
I do want to point out, Council Boschman, a lot of these streets that maybe aren't the busiest streets, they're being paved because they were damaged in that storm, and we have money to actually do those streets, and they're directed exactly at those streets, like Fairbanks Street, Monroe Street, all these streets that are in my ward. So
right, that's a good point. So we received a little over $1 million from the state for storm damage repair for that July, I think it was July 18th or 16th, 2023 storm. And the streets that you see on here, Fairbanks, Monroe, Birch, Haywood, those were all impacted by that storm. And that money's earmarked for those repairs, amongst other repairs that came out of that storm damage. But it's a situation where we'd like to pave all the roads that need to be paved. Obviously, we can't do that because of funding. We try to focus and place a higher priority on the roads that are going to serve the most people, which are the busier traveled roads. So I agree with that approach. But a lot of times we don't have the funding to fully repave a busy road. So the next best option is to look at some of the smaller roads that we do have money for, and get at least something done with the money that we do have.
All right. I just wanted to know, when I was looking at this list, and I said, this is a far cry from what I was told years ago.
I mean, it's not it's a very complex process, and I can't just give you 5 qualifiers and say this is how we pick roads, because it's entirely situationally dependent on a whole lot of factors, including the utility work, the volume of the road, the location within the city. We do try to spread the love around the different wards. There's just a lot that goes into it. I can't just give you 5 or 6 different qualifiers and say that's how we pave a road. That's how we select.
I don't want you guys to think I want I'm thinking about my ward.
But you do.
I know.
You do want your ward.
I mean, if you'd like, so engineering prepared a memo for one of the city councilors a while back that summarizes the methodology by which a road is selected for paving, and I'd be happy to send that out to all the councilors if you'd like to review that.
Sure. That would be great. Are you all set, Councilor Boschman? Because Councilor Fleming has been patiently waiting.
Oh, is she waiting?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but because I see a lot of roads that were on a list several years ago under the last administration. Are many of these roads still from that last administration?
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
These are not new roads. These were already on the docket to be paved We just did not have the funding.
Yeah, some of these were on the list to be paved, but we didn't have funding. So we maintain a 5-year rolling list, so every year we add a new year to that. So some of these were on that list in a couple of years, and now a couple of years have passed, so we're at that point and we're paving some of these roads. The other issue is that just due to staffing issues within DPW, we had a significant delay getting a paving contract out, getting a contractor under bid. We're finally at that point where we've got a contractor under contract and we have someone to do the work. We gave them our whole list last fall,
Yep.
but they've only got so much bandwidth, so they started on what they could, and the rest is carrying over now. Once we get through this list, once we get through the end of FY25, that will exhaust all of the FY26 monies, essentially.
Right.
So we'll be back to relying just on our annual Chapter 90 apportionment for paving, amongst the other needs like line painting and crack sealing. So,
Just needed to clarify that these are not new roads. They were already on the list to be done years ago.
yeah, and
thank you.
in FY26, I believe our Chapter 90 apportionment is now going to be somewhere just north of 1.7 million. Because of the increase to Chapter 90 funding. It used to be just a little over 1.1 million.
Okay.
But like I said, we've got a running 5-year paving plan so we've got a list of streets to be paved every year until 2029 right now, 2030. And that list gets modified, revised as utility work happens, as roads deteriorate. We can go through a winter and all of a sudden a road will just completely start to fall apart to the point that we need to do something about it. And a lot of times we have to change that plan. We have to pull something off and swap something in. Sometimes we'll get a high volume of complaints about a certain road, and it's just like, well, we really got to do something about this road. Let's look at how we can work it into next year's paving. What road could wait another year and we could swap this one in. So it's a very dynamic process, and it's by no means one individual just deciding all the paving. It's our engineering staff, it's myself, it's the mayor's office, it's everyone talking about this and coming up with the best plan that's going to try to benefit the most people and use all the funding that we have available.
Thank you.
I'll say Councilor Fleming.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Councilor Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have to agree with the gentleman from Ward 2. He certainly does not only care about Ward 2. You do plenty of complaining about Ward 6 as well, so I know that you don't just care about Ward 2. And regarding electric cab, which I agree has needed to be done, because where are we in the process of that? The work has begun. Can we expect, mid-May, early June for that to be completely all set?
Yeah, I would say exactly that, mid-May, early June for that to be complete. So they did the milling work. We've got to put down a leveler course, then we've got to put down the top coat. We've got to do all of our sidewalk and ADA crossing work over by Old Deerfield Road.
Okay.
That'll have to happen before the paving work, the top coat goes down. So we've still got a few more substantial weeks of work out there.
Okay. And are we still planning to do bike lanes, the majority of that work, from all the way down to the roundabout on both sides?
Painted bike lanes, yes.
Painted bike lanes. Okay, terrific. Thank you. I yield the floor. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Cruz. Any other questions on the paving?
I don't want to bore you guys, no.
Last but not least, Streets Division. So Streets Division, any given day, they're pulled in a million different directions to do whatever, from moving a tree out of the road to filling a pothole that is swallowing cars. But this is a list of the high-level items that they're working on trying to get done now, aside from all the day-to-day requests. So detention basin maintenance. We've got a number of detention basins throughout the city that haven't been maintained since they were built. We're trying to catch up on all that and actually get them maintained. We got a whole bunch done last fall and winter, and we're starting again this spring to try to get that work done. We've got a number of stump removals ongoing throughout the city. These are areas where trees have been cut down per request or need, and we got to follow up with the stump removal, grinding, backfilling, compacting, and surface restoration, whether it's loam and seed or concrete. Pothole patching, as you know, hot mix crew goes out daily unless there's an issue with the hot mix truck. Even then, we try to run a cold patch crew. We're focusing on catch basin repairs right now. So Jeff's had one of his crews trying to work on catch basins on a daily basis as well, unless they get pulled to go do something else. And then we're in the process of street sweeping right now. And we're in Ward 6? Ward 5 currently.
Good place to be.
Any questions?
Councilor Boishman.
On the stump grinding, we're not doing the ones that Unitil cut down, are we? Are we tackling that too?
So Unitil is only required to cut the trees. They're not required per city code to take the stumps out. So they leave the stumps, and then if we want the stump removed, we've got to do it at our expense, unfortunately.
I think Unitil actually, they try to trim the trees so that the trees aren't growing in their lines. So unless the trees become an actual obstacle, they tend not to cut it down. They just trim it so that it's not impacting their lines.
But the ones that they have cut down where stumps are remaining, it's on us to take those stumps out, unfortunately. We could potentially revise city code to require them to take those stumps out when they're doing tree cutting. I know you've talked to Unitil in the past, and they've said the same thing to you that they say to me. They're just going to pass that on to their ratepayers.
They told me that.
So it's a fine line that you walk there with the amount of work that you require them to do legally. But what we're trying to focus on is getting rid of the stumps that are most impactful based on the tree removals that we've done. So like along Milk Street, for example, there's some trees that were cut down over there, trying to get those stumps out.
Ernie's ward.
Yeah, it is Councilor Schultz's ward. Oak Hill, I think we did a couple of stumps over there.
There's a couple of stumps I got my eyes on in your ward, Paul, that it will take care of.
Yeah.
No, I understand that now they get the new thing going, Unitil, is that they cut down everything, and they leave instead of having a stump down here, they just leave a big trunk right there. Just a prime example is Pratt Road.
Yeah, and I don't like that they do that. Sometimes there's a guy wire attached to the tree, so they'll leave it for that purpose. But every conversation I've had with them, I've pushed them to try to take a whole tree. I don't know what they're legally required to take. That's something I'll have to look into. Generally, they're willing to work with us. They're not willing to go through the expense of taking out all the stumps, but if we ask them to cut down a full tree instead of leaving a stem like that, they'll generally do it. So if you have any in particular that you see every time and you curse Unitil, let me know, and I'll ask them to try to take that for us.
So the tree warden, James Bonnell, and myself have been in talks daily with Dave Clapton at Unitil, and they've been very good with trying to work with us to assist us with removing trees that we've have been years of problems, or maybe I need to work on a sidewalk. So if they cut the tree for me, I can start working on trying to get the sidewalk rehabilitated. So they've actually been really good with us lately.
Okay, so I yield the floor, sir.
Thank you, Council Boschman. Any other questions on the streets? Council Cruz?
Yeah, nothing so specific about streets, but I know we've been trying to work towards some C-Click fix improvements, and I know that the streets division, the streets is kind of a big thing, that and trash with C-Click fix, so it's probably, you say they get pulled all over the place. I can imagine that C-Click fix is a big reason for that. Have we made those movements to kind of streamline C-Click fix a little bit?
So C-Click fix is tough because there's just such a high volume of requests that come in. We don't have the ability to fully keep up with it. Like if someone submits a pothole request, for example, it's probably going to be a couple of weeks before we actually get to that pothole request, just because of the backlog that we have going on. Mm-hmm. And we've made some tweaks and streamlines to C-Click fix. Jeff is probably the most heavy user of C-Click fix right now, because he acknowledges and responds to the majority of the pothole requests and all that. But beyond those internal tweaks that we've made, the only real way to improve the response time is to add staff. I just don't see us being able to do that beyond the couple of vacancies that we're looking to backfill in the immediate future.
Okay.
Outside of staff, I mean, we need equipment too.
Equipment too, yeah, it's another limiting factor.
I see. So it's not like we should move to a different app or anything like that. It's just the volume is the issue.
I don't think so. I mean, there's definitely a lot of manual maintenance of the system on our end that we need to do. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we'll have the dispatcher go through and close out old tickets as like a housekeeping measure, and do some other things to make sure that we're seeing the latest tickets and responding to the latest tickets and not letting stuff linger for too long. Mm-hmm. But I don't think there's any significant improvements that could be made by switching to another system, for example.
Okay. Or like increased training or anything like that, so that Jeff's not the only one predominantly using it or anything like that? There's no...
I mean, the issue is just having people to actually use it. I mean, the guys that are within the streets division are out working. The only person in the streets division that's sitting behind a desk all day is the dispatcher, and he's doing what he can with it. Our engineering staff are in and out of the office managing contractors. They don't really have the time to absorb a see-click fix responsibility.
There's certain C-click fixes that go to them. There's other C-click fixes that go to the wastewater. So each department is getting their own group of C-click fixes that they cater to and they organize and work on. So.
And that's automated through the app?
Yeah.
It is. On the back end, we can change the workflows and whatnot. So like tree requests right now go to James Bunnell as the tree warden, and then he can reassign those to like Jeff if it's something that he thinks Jeff's guys can take care of versus our tree contractor. Street lights go to James Shea in engineering. He runs the streetlight program. Traffic signals go to Jeff. Jeff handles our traffic signal repair contractor. There's some things that go to wastewater. There's some things that are categorized as drain that go to Jeff. There's some things that are categorized as water supply that go to the water division. There's things that go to health, trash pickup and whatnot. So we have the ability behind the scenes to change who gets notified of what and who's on a particular category of requests. And within the system itself, you can reassign tickets, close out tickets, acknowledge them, et cetera.
Okay. But it's pretty much a human power issue then first.
It is. I mean, ultimately, what would benefit the DPW would be having a single person that is just the C-click fix administrator, and their job is to sit at a computer and respond to every single C-click fix ticket that comes in that's associated to DPW, and from there they could parse it out and assign it to different divisions and whatnot. We don't have the luxury of dedicating an entire person's day to just doing that.
That sounds like a pretty boring job anyways.
It does. I wouldn't want to do it.
No, me neither. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield the floor.
But the dispatcher does some of that work.
He does, especially helping Jeff close out tickets. So Jeff will take like the daily work slips, especially with like potholes, and he'll hand those to Mike, and Mike will go through and close out all those pothole tickets for the streets that are listed on those daily work slips. So that's a very manual process in and of itself, and that takes Mike a little while to do. And same thing with other stuff that's on that daily work slip. Jeff will hand it to Mike, and he'll close out and revise tickets as needed.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions before we end the DPW update?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Mr. Erickson.
Very well.
Make a motion, we accept. Oh, sorry.
Okay, moving on, we have new petitions for review. First petition is 02825, Councilors Marisa Fleming and Andy Van Hazinger, on behalf of Harry Holt of 66 Richardson Road, to assess the need for a stop sign or other traffic control measures at the intersection at High Street and Mechanic Street. And that was referred from City Council on February 18, 2025, and we have Councilor Van Hazinger ready to step to the podium.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm here on behalf of myself and Councilor Fleming as well. It was brought to our attention from a resident about the intersection of High Street and Mechanic Street, which is, if you're familiar with it, it's right by the Prime gas station. It's a tricky one. It's something that I'm pretty sure would not be approved if you tried to develop it today. It's a very tight angle. There's a change in grade. There's an open curb with the gas station. It's not great sight lines. It's just maybe something we should take a look at. I don't have any crash data to understand if there's been accidents there, but I know from experience it's a very difficult intersection. So maybe there's something we can do with stop lines to have a clear demarcation of where traffic should be stopping and looking, or a stop sign or a yield sign, or what we can do to just make it better. It's worth taking a look.
You better stop there.
Yes.
when you approach it, there's going to be an accident. So yeah, it's a very difficult situation.
Yeah, either from the gas station or the main road. I mean,
it
it's just tricky. Or, I don't even know if we played with something at the bottom of the street, warning people before they get to the top. Yeah.
Yeah, and in addition to that intersection, a little lower down on High Street, the intersection of High and Elm is also another tricky one that maybe we should look at with
That whole section.
pavement markings about what exactly, because it's not exactly clear what the traffic pattern is supposed to be there. So it's maybe something worth looking at. And I know this was referred to Public Works, but I'm not sure if this is something that would typically be handled by Public Safety, or is this a combination sort of?
I think it's a combination. I think it's going to ultimately need to be reviewed by Public Works, Public Safety, and potentially Legislative Affairs.
Okay.
Because it will require an ordinance change if we add a stop sign.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Councilor.
All right, thank you.
Zinga, for speaking for both of us, three of us.
Do you want to weigh in some more, Commissioner, or?
So you want to?
Yeah, so I think the commissioner says, him and I talked earlier about it. We definitely think a traffic study would be warranted for it. There is a curb cut there for the gas station. So with the traffic entering and leaving and then coming off a high street onto Mechanic Street, it could warrant a stop sign or even a yield sign there. But yes, we were saying too that this would probably have to go to public safety for the ordinance change so that it'd be added. If the event that a stop sign is warranted, it would be added into the language there on our codes.
Yeah, so my recommendation would be to hold the petition for now, let us get FPD involved and get their opinion on the matter. I don't know if we necessarily need to go to public safety yet, but we can still get the opinion of the traffic sergeant on the matter and see what she thinks. I'd like to go out there and start looking at sight lines and taking some measurements too. I think we can probably work on a little in-house traffic study as opposed to farming it out to a consultant.
That's what I was going to ask.
Spending money.
If we could avoid a traffic study and the expense of that,
Yeah.
would be.
I think we can. I think it is a relatively common sense solution here, but I just don't want to encourage this body to vote yes without having FPD weigh in on it too. So I'd like to do that. So that would be my recommendation.
I would just clarify that the petition is just to investigate, not necessarily to put something there. That as long as it's in the queue for engineering to look at, to talk to public safety, I mean, that's really what we're looking for, just to start the conversation.
Yeah.
This isn't to actually put it in, it's just to take a look at it.
So if that's the case, we're on board with doing that.
Yeah. So could I have a motion to hold this petition?
I got a
Did
question.
you have your hand up?
I did, yes.
Go ahead, Councilor.
So yeah, no, this is definitely a tricky, I don't think it's called, I don't know if it's an intersection, I don't know what you call it. It's definitely tricky, but I don't think it's anything like was mentioned by Commissioner Erickson. You know, we do these studies sometimes, they cost us, $50,000 and they tell us what we already know. So I'm all for avoiding that if we can in the future.
Yeah.
And I think, I think we can pass this because like Councilor Van Housing has said, it's just assessing the need. So we can hold, I'm open to either one, but I think that Sergeant Teague?
Sergeant Teague is another
would-
traffic
correct, yeah.
supervisor.
I just couldn't remember the.
Yeah, I could
Yeah, Lieutenant or Sergeant, but Sergeant Teague should probably weigh in on this. So happy to hold, happy to make a motion to approve. I'll defer to you, Mr. Chair.
I think we could hold it and get some information from public safety, from Sergeant Teague.
I can certainly reach out to Sergeant Teague and go out on site with her and have her, look at it and try to make an assessment of it, get some information on it.
And I
It
didn't.
certainly isn't a new issue. It's been like this
Okay.
for decades.
Yeah, well, I agree with Councilor Cruz. I mean, we could pass it because it's not about making the change, it's about starting the conversation.
Yeah, and
we
I
could
agree with that. I retract my previous recommendation to hold. I didn't realize, I didn't read it close enough that it's just the assessment, not necessarily actually
Yeah.
getting the stop sign installed. So we're on board with assessing, regardless of what happens now. We're going to initiate that conversation with Sergeant Teague and FPD and start looking at it.
All right.
Okay, so we could do it. We have a motion to
Oh, I thought you
approve.
had it.
Approve.
So moved.
Second?
All right. We'll take it by unanimous consent unless we have a issue. Okay, so
Thank you, Council.
thank you, Councilor.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Councilor Van Hazinga.
Thank you, Councilor.
All right, we have another petition, 06925 is also a new petition. Councilor Andrew J. Kuchar on behalf of Paul Gagny and other residents to change the status of Central Ave extension from a paper road to an actual road. And I don't see Councilor Kuchar here, so maybe Commissioner Erickson could weigh in on that for us.
Sure. So Central Ave Extension is a private/paper road over in West Fitchburg off of Westminster Street. It's definitely in rough condition, but it is a private road. It's not owned by the city right now. So What Jeff and I did is we looked at the city code. There's a section of city code that outlines the process for, it's called Requirements for Establishment of Streets Over Private Lands, which would be the exact situation we're talking about doing right now. It's Chapter 157, Section 12. And essentially it lays out the process through which a developer would have to get a street accepted by the city. And essentially they've got a survey, they've got to lay out bounds, they've got to prepare an engineering plan that shows what they're proposing, and then the roadway needs to be constructed in accordance with said plan. And all of that needs to meet city standards, and it needs to be approved by the Commissioner of Public Works. My opinion here is that we should follow the process that's outlined in the city code. We've got 180 miles of public roads that we cannot maintain right now as it is with our current level of staffing and funding. And I think it would be the wrong decision to accept yet another road into official city ownership that's in such poor condition. So unfortunately for the proponents of this petition, my recommendation is that they follow the process outlined in the city code, and if they'd like, they can proceed with hiring a surveyor, an engineer, and a contractor to execute that process. But until that happens, I don't think the city should accept the road.
Who was first? Councilor Fleming.
I think we're,
Go, please.
I would have liked to have seen either Councilor Kuchar or Paul Gagné here to speak on this. I don't like when petitions are brought forward and the people who put them in are not there to speak to them, but I think I will agree with the commissioner's assessment, and
We could put it on hold until we have Councilor Kuchar come to a Public Works Committee meeting.
or Paul Gagné.
Or Paul Gagné. But,
I mean, just for the viewing public, do you mind if I read the ordinance section out loud?
sure, go ahead.
All right. So, requirements for establishment of streets over private lands. Any petition for laying out a street which shall in its effect involve the acceptance by the city of a private street constructed or projected over private lands shall be accompanied by either a certificate from the commissioner that such street has actually been constructed in compliance with the following requirements and specifications, or by an agreement of the petitioners that they will bear these expenses of such construction and completion. A, such street shall be constructed and completed in accordance with a plan and profile thereof, filed with and approved by the commissioner, showing its proposed location, width, and grades, and the location and grades of all its connecting streets, and drawn to such scale as the commissioner may require and to his or her satisfaction. B, such street shall be constructed in a manner reasonably safe for travel and with a roadway of such width as the commissioner may require and of such cross-section as he or she may prescribe. C, the whole area of such street shall be cleared of stumps, rocks, roots, and other superfluous or objectionable material, it's a mouthful to say, of all the trees not intended for preservation, and trees intended for preservation shall be properly protected by boxes or fences against injury. D, all clay, loam, and loamy material should be removed from the limits of the roadway and sidewalks, if required by the commissioner, to such depths as he or she may approve, and shall be deposited outside the limits of such street. E, all work and excavation and embankment shall be brought accurately to such a subgrade as the commissioner may require, and all side slopes thereof which in such street or on adjoining land shall be at a ratio as he or she may furnish. And F, all corners of intersecting streets shall be rounded, and granite bounds shall be set at all angles, curves, and corners of such street, and those made with such connecting streets according to the direction and approval of the commissioner. So there's, in that list of requirements, is some pretty substantial stuff. So the process in my mind would be hiring a surveyor to come out and survey the area, set street bounds per our typical city standards, then hiring an engineer to design a roadway along that street or along that right-of-way that's laid out by the surveyor, then having a contractor come in and actually build that street. just rough ballpark costs, you know, you're talking about probably $500,000-ish just to do that. And that's, I don't know if that's possible for the residents that are supporting this petition to do.
Now, the residents on that street, they pay taxes, and we take care of their rubbish removal and plowing that street, right, at the present time?
Right. We're limited to collecting trash and patching potholes. Even patching potholes is a little bit of a gray area. Per Mass General Law and per city code, we're not allowed to make any permanent or drainage repairs to that roadway. And the level of pothole patching that we do really should trigger a whole nother process that's outlined in city code for temporary repairs to private ways. And we make an exception because we understand that, you know, the least we can do in these roads is pothole patch. You know, we've got, I'd say close to 40 plus miles of private way. And that's a lot of miles of private road in the city that people live on and still have to drive over and still have to, you know, put their trash out and navigate at all times of the year. So we plow, we pothole patch, and we pick up trash.
Now you mentioned that the street was in poor condition. What were the things that you were looking at that would necessitate a huge undertaking?
So in my opinion, the road is too narrow compared to city standards. The subgrade is failing. The road is alligator cracked and potholed. It almost looks like a dirt road at this point.
There's no drainage on the road, so
Right.
all the water collects on the road and just buckles the pavement. We've been pothole patching the same spot where the water collects for years. So there's no drainage at all on the road.
So I think you're looking at, you know, setting survey bounds, clearing some trees, widening the road, and then you're looking at full depth reclamation of the existing road surface, paving a new binder course, top course, and then doing all the other associated work, excavation and whatnot.
Do we have any idea how old that road is or when that was put in?
I could search our records. I'm willing to bet that it's 100 or so years old.
Councilor Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Erickson, I know it's all very different, but you said you have 40 miles of paper road in the city. I have a considerable amount in Ward 6. This is a difficult conversation that I've had to have with a number of constituents, where I've just, you know, not as much detail, and thank you for that, Commissioner, about, you know, what would go into making this a completely, you know, designated city road, the amount of finances, the difficulty we already have, for no fault of anyone's, you know, maintaining the streets we already have. You know, we all know Chapter 90 is not enough. It has been for many years, so. But at the end of the day, we have a considerable amount of catch-up that we're still looking to try to do. And when residents in Ward 6 come to me, we work with Commissioner Erickson to do the best we can for that street. But when they want us, the city to take it, I make sure I have that honest conversation with those residents. And I don't know if that conversation happened with this, but it probably should have, because we can't just wave our wand. And I'm not going to, I cannot in good conscience approve what I couldn't do for my own residents in Ward 6. So this is a non-starter for me, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I've done it before. I'm kind of very used to it. I've offered in the past for the people who live on that street to start an association to start to, you know, kind of make up some of these funds. But ultimately, Commissioner Erickson, if you can go into a little bit of what you see of, you know, how sometimes residents aren't informed that they live on a paper road when they buy the property from the previous owner. Sometimes they're part of a development that maybe the developer isn't very honest with them. I don't know if you have some more examples.
There was a lady I was talking to. I think she was up on Bailey Ave, and she just recently bought the road, and she was asking me about it. I was like, well, it's a paper street. And she's like, what do you mean a paper street? Like, it wasn't in my deed. It wasn't offered to us by the realtor or anything. So apparently the message isn't getting passed along, or it's being forgotten about or whatever. So yeah, I had to inform her that, you know.
And the drainage it's a big time issue, but on some of these paper roads, I mean, you know, it's like we've been saying, we've been harping on, it's enough for us to do the water work on these main roads, right? And to do these paper roads that might have one or two houses and are need millions of dollars in restoration and remediation, I can't say no to my residents in Ward 6 and approve this in good conscience. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield the floor.
Thank you, Councilor Cruz. Councilor Boishman and then Councilor Fleming.
No, go ahead.
Oh, Councilor Fleming.
Who was
But
that
but
first?
in the exchanging of the paperwork, in the city, when it says street, it does say private.
I don't know what a person, an individual purchasing a home in the city, I don't know what they see on their end, but we maintain a list at the clerk's office and on file at DPW of all the public and private ways in the city. So that information is out there. It's just up to the home buyer to do their due diligence, essentially. I don't know what exactly they're presented with. I assume there's something in the documentation that they have to sign that says it's a public or private way.
The assessor's office does say that, private,
I would think so.
public, road, I think it says
yeah, it
it
does-
right
it
in
does
the,
say
yeah.
that, yeah.
So it's there, I just think it's not read, or
I mean, I think it's
Maybe
incumbent.
not understood.
that may be that too, yeah.
I think it's incumbent on the home buyer and even the realtor to try to inform home buyers
Right.
of the status of a road, and maybe there's just some inexperience that goes on, and people just don't know.
How many people are on this road?
Oh, 6.
6.
Oh, 6, yeah.
Right,
was
yeah,
that?
probably.
10.
People.
Nope.
So it's buyer beware that whether you're
Yeah.
buying a house on a public road or a private road, because if it's a private road, there could be some issues down the road. Councilor Boishman and then Councilor Cruz.
You know, I just want to tell you something. Plus that, if they get underground pipes that go to the sewer line and their pipes break, they're responsible for it. We had that case over here in Fleming Place. There was a backup, and Lenny was they had one, and he didn't want to go in there to fix the pipe because if it broke, it would be our responsibility. And he wanted the tenants to do it, or the property owners did it. But I can, to go back to what you said, Melissa, and you, I can honestly believe that how you would assume that that's a street. When you see a truck going up there to pick up the trash, you say, whoa, they even pick up the trash. Or if you're in the wintertime and you're buying a house and you notice that the city's up there plowing, and they say, wow, they're even plowing the street. So you automatically assume, because we brought this up before underneath Vinny, because we were talking about that Gate Street, the gate place on Fairmont Street between Fairmont and Plymouth. They have backups there too. And he said, and I wanted Vinny to do something. He said, and his question was, buyer beware. He said, we can't do nothing for them. That's between them and the realtor, and the realtor should be right up in front.
So just two follow-up points to that. So Laflamme Place, I know exactly what you're talking about off of Beach Street.
Yeah.
So that's a shared private lateral that enters the sewer system there. So that is the ownership of the people that are on that shared lateral. There are other sanitary sewer mains installed in private streets that the city actually does own and operate and maintain. So it depends on which private street you're looking at and whether the city owns that main and has an easement or not. So it's not a one-size-fits-all there either. And then back to the snow plowing. So this has always been a struggle for every superintendent and commissioner for as long as I've been around in the city of whether we should be plowing private roads or not. Because when it comes down to it, the city has very limited finances, very limited resources, limited snowplow drivers, limited equipment, and technically private roads are private, and the people that live on them should be hiring a contractor to come and clear the roads or doing it themselves, just like anyone does with their driveway. I mean, Paul, you don't expect the city to come plow out your driveway, do you? No. So for a resident that lives on a private road, they're expecting the city to come plow essentially their private driveway. And I understand that the city needs to step up and help out these people because they do pay taxes, and they most certainly do. And I think the city has an obligation there to help in any way that they can. But the city is not legally obligated or required to do that. And that's the decision that me and Jeff had made, you know, kind of when we both took over these respective roles, that we were going to plow out all of the private roads that we have in the city upon request. If there were any that were refused in the past, we were just going to start doing it. Because if you say yes to one, you have to say yes to them all. yes to them all. You can't pick and choose the ones that you're saying yes to. So that's the situation that we're in right now. We're trying to be as fair and accommodating as possible, and we are plowing these private roads, but we're not really under any legal obligation to do so.
I yield the floor.
Councilor Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think you kind of hit it right on the head. If we're going to say yes to one, we need to say yes to all. And like I mentioned, I've already had this difficult conversation with a number of residents in Ward 6 that we do not have the capacity to take on more roads that we're going to have to pave. I mean, we were talking about the roads we're paving earlier. How long have they been on the list? Years. Even if we were to pass this, and I don't think we should, it could be at least 10 to 15 years before that road was addressed and everything was done. Let's be honest. That's a real possibility. And that's not something that I've shied away from being dishonest about with my residents in Ward 6, and it's not something I'm going to start to now. I'm willing to hold, but I'm also willing to make a motion to approve and vote this down. Vote nay. So I'll defer to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Cruz. Yeah, and I've had the same conversation in my ward, that there's private roads that have been there for a long time, and they've, the people there say, geez, can you help us out? And we've gone there, we've patched, some potholes, but like Commissioner Erickson said, we can't pave their road over because it's a private road. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So we can either hold this, vote on it.
I'm going to vote on it. I like to vote on it. There's no sense of hold it. We're not going to do it.
Okay.
Nothing to hold.
Well, Commissioner Erickson has made his case pretty plain that it's probably not a good idea for us. They should follow the city code to if they want to be accepted as a public street. So
And I'll make the motion in the affirmative to approve. That's how we do it in Robert's rules. So I make a motion to approve 069-25.
To approve it.
To approve it?
That's, in Robert's rules, everything is in the affirmative. You don't say, I vote to vote this down. So my vote will be nay, but my motion is to approve. It's crapola, I know.
I never heard of that one before. Almost. Why don't we just say we don't want it? That's it. Really?
I'm doing the best I can to follow Robert's rules.
yeah, we'll go with that.
I make a motion
to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
On
Councilor
the motion, why don't we just give it leave to withdraw?
I'm open to that as well.
Well, like,
change the
I
motion.
We already have a motion to
I will
approve.
rescind my motion to approve.
You rescind it.
And I give 06925 leave to withdraw.
Do we have a
Second.
unanimous?
I'll second that one.
Okay.
Okay.
And
I'm a yes.
yes.
And I make a motion, we adjourn.
We're not done yet.
We're not done with voting on this motion, and we also have a
We can't, we
health
still have
petition
this.
that we have to look at.
gotta do
as well.
Stickney Road, yeah.
So it's unanimous. We have a leave to withdraw. on this.
If you don't mind, one more statement. So we, as in the DPW, the city recognizes that this is a problem. My understanding is the city of Worcester has come up with some sort of methodology to figure this out, and they're dealing with the same problem, and they've slowly been chipping away at their private roads over the years. I think the difference between what they have and what we don't have is a funding source to throw at this. So if we can come up with some sort of a funding program, then we could start potentially doing this work. It's just a situation where if we say yes to one, we have to say yes to all. So we have to come up with a plan before we say that first yes.
Yeah,
Finally,
that's
Mr. Chair.
a reason. Go ahead, Councilor.
And the city of Worcester has considerably more revenue than the city
Yes.
of Fitchburg. Considerably
But
more.
it's something to keep on the back burner, that we really should do something for the people who live on these private, especially these old roads that need so much rehabilitation.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, we have one help petition for review. It's 16824, Councilor Andrew Kuchar on behalf of Paulo Fritz of 160 Stickney Road to place an apron and berm to stop the water intrusion. It's not reading very well. To stop the damage to the property. Can't stop the damage to the property, I guess. It was held at the 9/24/24 and 1/28/25 meetings. So I know we have some photos of the berm and so on. Commissioner Erickson.
So you see the photos in front of you. This berm that you see was installed, I believe, last fall.
Yes, if not last fall, if not the year before that, but yes.
And it was installed in response to a petition from the resident adjacent to number 160 who had similar runoff issues. Their house is set down lower than the road, so we did a berm, an apron, continued the berm towards number 160, skipped over their driveway, and then continued the berm past 160. So what we're seeing on our ends, which is somewhat illustrated by these pictures, is that the road runoff appears to be staying in the road. We're not sure what's causing the erosion over behind the stacked stone retaining wall to the right of the house at number 160. It almost looks like the gutters from the garage and the main house structure might be discharging over there and causing some runoff. We haven't had a substantial rainstorm where we've been able to get out there and actually put eyes on what's happening while it's raining. And I think that's the only way for us to figure out exactly what's causing this erosion problem here. And I don't believe the property owner's here to help discuss.
And neither is Councilor Kuchar. So.
Right. So Jeff, I don't know if you want to expand on that with what you saw this morning at all?
From what I saw, from what I saw, I mean, to me, it doesn't give me the impression that the runoff is from the road. Actually, looking at the berm with respect to the driveway apron, the existing driveway apron, I think it's high enough to keep the water out in the road and not on their property. I mean, I don't see signs where the water is bleeding across the driveway, especially the picture with looking at the dumpster in the white car to the left of it. I don't see signs from where the water is coming over the driveway and then washing out the landscaped area in front of the house. I do see signs on I guess would be the picture that is half the sheet. It's on the left, you're looking at the left side of the house. There is images of erosion over there. However, I think a lot of that is coming from the property off the gutters and going down through the fieldstone retaining wall that was used as a barrier. The fieldstone itself, the retaining wall, there's a lot of void space in there that could allow for a significant amount of erosion and water and sediment to pass through. Councilor Postman?
Councilor Boschman.
Yeah, Jeff, question. Is the driveway higher than the road, Stickney Road?
Are you asking me, is the apron higher than the road?
Yeah.
To what I saw, yes, it looked like there was a decent crown there that would keep the water into the road and not allow it to backfeed down into the property. The house actually sits up higher than the existing road.
So you're telling me that's where the washout is?
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. The information was passed along to me in terms of there was erosion on the property, hence why the petition was passed forth for a berm. We installed a berm and an apron in conjunction when we were out there last year for the property that's upgrading of this. So looking at this, to my knowledge, the berm was installed already. So when we saw that there was erosion, or the petition was signed, or it was proposed for water intrusion, I wasn't sure if the water intrusion was from the house or if it was from the road because of the lack of a berm. So that's where our confusion is.
Oh, okay. If I look at the berm, what are you, 4 or 5 inches higher than the road?
Yes. Right.
I mean, you could have a
5 or 6
swimming pool
inches.
going down there. Is this on a hill?
Yes.
down, yeah, it is.
Yes. Yeah.
So with all that construction up there, if I'm not mistaken, if I was up there, they had the same problem on Williams Road, don't they? And what they did is they took their brick out. People brought in fill and they took the brick out that was in front of their houses.
Sorry,
On Williams Road?
Williams, I don't remember
I know.
that situation.
On the left side, yeah, there was a thing there, because I talked to Pete Kettle, that road.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yes, so that was a driveway culvert that went under the driveway.
Yeah.
Yep, so DPW did go up there and make a repair, and then when we repaved the road, we had to have our contractor kind of mimic what we had done a couple of years prior. In this case, though, there's no driveway culvert here, and I don't think there ever was one. This is a relatively new house. If you look at where that tree is,
Yeah.
I mean, that tree is pretty big. If there was a driveway culvert installed here, it would have been right through where that tree is. So I don't think anything's been removed there. This is just before you get to the farm, if you're driving up Stickney
Yeah.
on the left.
Coming from Route 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the thought is the erosion is being caused from the house itself, not the road. That's the thought.
I guess we were unclear of what erosion they were alluding to. I can only assume that the erosion they were talking about was what I'm seeing is actually from the house, not from the road.
Since we don't have Councilor Cucci here, nor the resident, I think Councilor Cruz wants to make a motion.
Well, it's difficult for us because, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is the third time this has been for this body. I don't know if the petitioner or the resident has been here to help us clarify any of these points. I'm willing to hold it one more time for the next Public Works Committee, but after that, I think we should give leave to withdraw. I mean, we're not getting enough collaboration here to make a good
I think we
decision.
just should leave it. I look at this picture, you look at this picture, I'm not an engineer, but the driveway looks to me like the driveway's pitched towards the left. If you're standing in the front, towards the left, and all that water's running down, and there's no grass to stop it, and that's where you're probably getting the erosion. And if he's got his catch drainage coming off of that roof, the garage roof, and onto the driveway, there's a problem.
I will say too, though, the image with the car on the front lawn, so that car actually drove over the existing berm that we installed and cracked it. So if that berm becomes damaged anymore and could allude for water to wash out or wash out the landscaped area behind it, but they did actually crack the berm when they drove over it.
Yeah, I can see it, yeah.
Okay.
Nick, can I ask you a question? Why are we using the low berm versus the Cape Cod berm where they're on an angle? So this way here, when you look at this picture and you see a plow hitting on the side, he's riding right. Just a matter of time before it all breaks.
I mean, in this case, I think it was done to match the grade on the backside of the berm and kind of hold back a lot of that earth for the front lawn and whatnot.
That and to keep there was a significant amount of water that was coming down from the farm area, so we're using the higher berm to keep the water in the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Cape Cod berm typically isn't as tall. Usually that's like a 6-inch berm. This, I think, is an 8-inch mold that we used here.
Okay.
Called a bread box mold.
I mean, how recent are these
Take a
photos?
I'm sorry, say that
How
again?
recent are the photos?
I took those today.
Pretty
I
recent.
mean, it's today. I mean, like I was saying, you know, it would be better to have people here, the petitioner here to discuss it some more, the resident, but, I mean, it looks like a pretty, despite the damage from them running over it, looks like a fairly well put together berm in the right position.
Yeah. I'll make a motion, we withdraw.
I'll second the motion.
I mean, we could repair that section of a cracked berm for them. That's not an issue. It'll just have to be a little handwork thing that we do, but.
But that won't require a petition.
No.
All right, well, we have a motion to leave the withdrawal on this petition. We have a unanimous vote on that? Anybody opposed? Okay, leave the withdrawal.
Make a motion, we adjourn?
Second?
Second.
We are adjourned.
Science.
Commissioner Superintendent, thank you.